Hello, good afternoon, everyone.
How is everybody doing after lunch? I hope you had a nice break and I hope you are all ready for to learn about inclusive support in early childhood education settings. My name is Shine.
And my name is Patricia Sosa-Alaniz. Welcome, everyone, to our Inclusion with Supports in ECE Setting presentation. We are so happy that you're able to join us and excited to be able to be here and share with you some wonderful information, very informative and educational regarding inclusion with supports.
We are super pumped. I hope you are too. And please don't worry about am I going to get access to the presentation? Absolutely. It has live links, so we will be sharing the presentations at the end of the presentation. Go ahead and we have our email addresses, so you can go ahead and send us an email, and we'll be happy to share our presentation. Go
All
ahead,
right.
my friend.
Well, yes. Well, in continuation of our introductions, here's a little bit of bio about us and the partnership and relationship that Shine and I had started a couple of months ago. And it's a coincidence and why we're here. But so to begin everything, my name is once again Patty Sosa-Alaniz, and I'm the special education coordinator currently as of 3 months with Rialto School District. I support our speech and related services. I also have, in addition to that, I've had a number of years in special education for over 20 years, and that also includes early childhood education in the public schools. I was also a former speech pathologist, school psychologist, program specialist, and of course, many more hats added to that. But coincidentally, I was also a former preschool administrator that supported both special education and general education with Menifee Union School District. And then when I say the word coincidence, you'll understand why. But my journey of inclusion actually began more of a personal level. It began with my daughter, who is 18 years old, who was born deaf. And my journey for her inclusion became at a very young age, since she was a preschooler, no experience in this area. But then after that experience with my daughter, it actually prompt me to seek an opportunity to bring inclusion in our school system. And that led me to piloting the first Anaheim Elementary School District inclusion program, which you'll get to learn more about. But in addition to that, I've also expanded my knowledge in that area, and I brought actually with Menifee the Inclusive Early Education Expansion Program grant here with Menifee, which, like I said, there's a caveat here, but my goal overall will always continue to improve and invest my time to overcome and provide our students those opportunities with and without disabilities on the areas of inclusion. So go ahead, my friend.
Thank you, Patty. Thank you. Well, let me tell you. I'm going to tell you from now, and then I'm going to go a little into history. Basically, what I'm doing right now is I am doing Patty's job 3 months ago, where she served as the administrator. So currently, I am serving as the coordinator of early childhood education and early childhood education programs here at Menifee Union School District. I have climbed the career ladder from instructional assistant to serving as an administrator. Most recent accomplishment, in addition to my job, is I finished my doctoral studies a couple of years ago. With COVID, we always try to think before COVID, after COVID, right? So I finished my doctoral research at Cal State San Bernardino. My research was specifically focusing on assessment of inclusive practices in preschool classrooms. So I basically married my passion of early childhood education and early childhood special ed, and that was a culmination of my passion of both worlds. And of course, I'm just because I have a doctoral degree doesn't mean I know it all. In fact, I'm just beginning to scratch the surface, and I'm so humbled. Also, in terms of my other advocacy work, I have been in America 30 plus years. I'm originally from Sri Lanka. How many of you are familiar with Sri Lanka and or Ceylon? So, as I shared with you, I climbed the career ladder from instructional assistant, then I've served as a teacher, early childhood special ed, early childhood education teacher, then principal and coordinator. So this has been a work in progress, and it's still a work in progress. In terms of my experience and my passion, extensive experience with both professions, and with program development, parent engagement. My first master's is in my thesis focusing on empowering parents, and of course professional development. So when we talk about inclusion, the supporting inclusion of teachers and parents are very, very important to me. I am going to go on. We are going to find out about you. Go ahead, Miss
Absolutely.
Patty.
Now that we've spent almost 2 or 3 minutes talking about ourselves, I would like to see if maybe many of you can go ahead and type in the chat where you're from, where are your titles, what's been your experience in inclusion. So we are excited to get to know everyone today presentation. So let's see, how far are many of you coming from? So we're from Menifee here. Let's see if we could see anybody else. Type in, please. Type in the chat where you're coming from.
Go ahead, and I'm going to monitor the chat screen, and go ahead. And if you feel like you want to unmute and talk, that's okay too. Hello.
Sandy. Thank you so much, Sandy.
Welcome.
Sandy, speech pathologist, owner of National Teletherapy Resources from Alabama. Wow,
Woo!
Alabama.
Welcome.
Wow, welcome. Thank you for joining. Does anybody compete? Sandy?
We have from Stockton
Oh,
in
Stockton.
California. Welcome, Katie.
Thank you, Katie, for typing in where you're from. Oh, is it Tasia? Inclusion Program Coordinator. Yes. Early Learning Program, MCOE, Monterey. Thank you. Excited to meet you as well.
Isn't it great that we are surrounding ourselves with?
Absolutely.
And as I'm going to quote my dear friend Kristen Brooks, Dr. Brooks, one time when she and I connected during our inclusion SIP project, when she presented, when I got so excited and follow up, she said, "Yeah, I met another inclusion warrior." Oh, hi, Jody.
Yes.
From Bakersfield School District, mild to moderate special education team. Welcome aboard.
And you said that you're from the Inclusive Services Department. Wow, that's so good to hear that you actually have a separate department that focuses in that specific area of need.
I love that way you're saying your name. Think Fantasia without the fan. Tasia. Oh my gosh.
Thank you, Tasha. That's wonderful. Very unique. I really appreciate it. All right, we'll probably see if we have any more other people typing where they're from.
And also, as you're doing this, would you tell us what number of the conference for you with the Inclusion Collaborative? Any first timers? Any people who are veterans? Keep going. And also, if you don't mind, we are going to request, especially when we're after lunch, right? We need to get our bodies moving and grooving.
Absolutely.
And also, what comes to your mind? What does inclusion mean to you? Because, as I said, we are surrounding ourselves with inclusion warriors. So, if you could kindly type on the screen, what comes to your mind when you hear the word inclusion? What does inclusion mean to you? Oh, first timers! Yay!
Awesome.
Welcome.
Thank you. We have a couple of first timers. Thank you so much.
Great, and we know your experience is going to be fabulous. I myself have been involved with the Inclusion Collaborative with this conference for many years as a participant, also as a host and a presenter for Riverside County. And we are just excited, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
We are going to move on. Okay, Miss Patty?
Right. So our goal for today is you will actually leave this presentation with learning outcomes. And of course, as all participants, you will first also learn how to define access, participation, and supports with the implementation of inclusive practices. And then you're going to list 4 successes in professional development, parent engagement, curriculum, and assessment. These are our frameworks, specifically when it comes to whether you're going to create, you're in the process of planning an inclusion program, or you're already implementing an inclusion program. And these are very crucial frameworks when it comes to that you will learn throughout today's presentation.
As much as successes, and Patty and I have our years of service put together, well, after 30 years, I kind of stopped counting.
Yes.
So together, I think together we have about 50 years of service. Also, we're going to learn about barriers in professional development, parent engagement, curriculum, and assessment. And also, what I'd like to share as a fourth learning outcomes is to understand the research data of inclusive practices using the inclusion crosswalk model that I presented to my research studies and which was supported by the research, by the data.
Okay, so now we're going to or transition over to
Welcome, Tammy.
Oh,
Sorry,
thank you. That's
Patty.
okay. We're starting to see more people joining us, so we apologize about that. No problem. You see, with us, it's kind of like a little dance here and there. We jump in at any moment, but this is our life. We're about just jumping in and joining, and then of course asking questions, and of course making some wonderful, great comments of the people that are joining us. But back to our presentation, some of you, many of you are already familiarized with these terms. You're going to learn more about, like I said, the primary topic for today is inclusion. But some of you may be familiarized with the topic or the word mainstreaming and reverse mainstreaming. But in the aspects of mainstreaming, many of you may already probably implementing this level of support. Some of you maybe not have heard of this, but mainstreaming, if maybe it actually means it's not synonymous to inclusion. What mainstream involves is creating an opportunity for your students in special education to be able to join other students in another general education environment just for opportunities for social interaction. So the goal of mainstreaming is to provide opportunities for students with disabilities to be integrated with other students for a short term of time, whether it's 30 minutes, whether it's an hour, but with the focus and emphasis of giving them those social opportunities.
And currently here at Menifee Union School District at the preschool program, we are implementing reverse mainstreaming. I mean mainstreaming and reverse mainstreaming. Go ahead,
Yes.
Patty.
And of course, in the area of reverse mainstreaming, I've had experience not only mainstreaming and also inclusion, but I've also had an experience with reverse mainstreaming. And this is the opposite. In reverse mainstreaming is involving by bringing typical students to join students who are in their special education environment by giving them an opportunity to learn together. And these could be students in your neighborhood. It could be students that parents want to give them an opportunity to be learning together with other children with disabilities. And also it's a good opportunity for our other students and within our general ed community to be able to develop those empathy, sharing skills. So these are some of the examples of mainstreaming, or whether you call it reverse or we call it inclusion, which is a full day of integration.
Absolutely. So the operation definition, but I'd like to share about inclusive practices is, of course, all of you know this. And as we say, I want to acknowledge and celebrate you, all of you. So inclusion and inclusive practices is when preschool students with and without disabilities learn and play together in a general education setting. I'm quoting Dr. Muccio, but in her doctoral study back in 2012, I had the pleasure to connect with her, and she finished her doctorate in at George Mason University. Her research is also focusing on preschool inclusion, not specifically assessment as I did, but in general inclusion. And Patty and I were talking back and forth. Is it Muccio or Muccio? What do you think?
Well, it can go one or the other, potato. I'm sorry, and I don't mean to offend anybody, but we were just discussing about the pronunciation. So but our dearest respects to Dr. Musio. All right. So we are going to share with you a video that it's dear and near and heart to me.
Oh, I will tell a sneak preview. We are not going to say anymore, and pay attention to one of the key actors in this video.
Yes.
All righty.
See if you can spot her.
Mm.
Inclusion Program is a program in which students that have been identified with special needs and students who have not been identified with special needs are able to learn alongside each other in a classroom on a daily basis. It is a full collaborative classroom that throughout the entire day, my co-teacher and I collaborate and plan and implement our curriculum. What I love the most is the fact that we have the opportunity to collaborate not only with us two teachers, but also with our whole team.
To have teachers for this type of program, it takes a special person. We have two different teachers working for one goal. You have to have a really high standard. So to have those kind of teachers in my kids, is
the biggest breakthrough, I believe, is the success stories that we have with the program working. That's one of the goals of the program, is to provide an opportunity for all of our children that are receiving special ed services to it's a restricted environment where they can actually have opportunities to learn. Much growth they've made overall since they started the program. And
You
how
go,
it's
my
important
friend.
to learn to help each other as children, and building those skills of empathy. We definitely see some tremendous growth in our children. Seeing that evidence really validates the importance of the inclusion program.
I think we need more programs like this. We have a setting like this. I mean, every student with special needs should have access to a classroom.
Our mission and vision is to see more inclusion programs such as this, such as PIP, grow in our district, but also grow in other districts as well. In our educational community today, everybody is pushing towards inclusion, and it's really important that we follow along. We see the benefits to every child. We see the benefits to the teachers. We see the benefits to the school community. And really what we are is we're trying to help these children to be prepared to be functioning and happy and successful adults. And that's for every child, not just the child with an IEP, but all of our children. And that's what inclusion does, is it prepares all of our children to be successful in their lives.
All right, Ms.
All
Patty.
right. So, as you can see, that obviously, I don't know if you found out who was the actor.
Associate Students Health Development Center here at
Oh,
Sosa-Alaniz
sorry.
State University.
Okay, perfect. Sorry about that. So, I don't know if you recognized who was in that video, but just to kind of give you a little bit brief background, and I'll talk more about this as we go through the presentation. But the Anaheim Elementary Preschool Inclusion Program was the first program that I helped facilitate and pilot with Anaheim. And it was in partnership with the Early Childhood Education Department. And we went through a lot of planning. We went through a lot of discussions. We went through how we're going to fund this program, what supports are need to be put in place, what's important to have in our program. So that will be something that I will discuss further today as a team about. Remember how I talked about the important frameworks, the important areas and domains that are importantly necessary to have develop and include as part of as you continue to grow or are in the process of creating an inclusion program. So we'll talk more about that.
I'm going to make you work.
Yes.
Would you please go ahead and type in the chat any reflections, any thoughts, any ahas, what you liked or what you would like to do differently? Go ahead. Because remember, just because this is virtual, that doesn't mean we're not participating. No, it doesn't matter how. Just as young children need active participation, research states even grown-ups, as adults.
Mhm.
That's how we learn. We need to be able to actively get involved. Go ahead, please. I'm going to give you guys a few seconds.
Yeah. Just type in what was your first impression? What was your thought when you saw the video? What you saw with the students in their integration, their activities. Any thoughts, input?
One of the things I'm going to share, I love sharing stories even as an administrator or as a professor. I also am an adjunct faculty member at College of the Desert, and also I served as an adjunct faculty as an instructor for the UC Davis, the Child Development Initiative. Why I'm sharing about that is when I know the student's name, I call on them only to the best of interest to be get involved. So well, I'm going to say, Miss Sandy, come on, let's go. First time, and Fantasia like Tasia, right? Tasia, go ahead, Miss Tasia. And
It's kind
also
of like the
Katie.
students in the classroom. Well, if I don't have
Exactly.
volunteers, I'm going to volunteer a couple of our peoples in the audience.
Any thoughts?
And I can just kind of add a little more while people are still typing, thinking what was their impression. As you can see that in the classroom we had two teachers. One teacher was a special education teacher, and then the other teacher was our early childhood education teacher. And I can tell you that it took a lot of planning to decide the teachers to be able to teach the classroom together, and what were we looking in terms of skills and knowledge and experience. Of course, that's something that we want to make sure that that they have the knowledge in their field. But what really was important to us is their relationship, what was their mission and vision in teaching a classroom together. What do they hope to learn as they go through the process? But I can tell you there was a lot that we had to go through with that aspect.
Thank you, Patty.
Yeah.
All right. Now, in terms of, I am assuming, we never assume at the same time, when we go to conferences, when I go for conferences, some of the information I already know. What happens is when you go for conferences, like, aha, I have not used that in a while. Oh, that's a great idea that I didn't think about. So, the access, participation, and supports. These are the constructs that the framework for preschool inclusion is built upon. And I use these constructs even in my doctoral research. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pull out the position statement. There you go. So I'm going to get started. Then I promise you I'm going to let Miss Patty chime in as well. So when we think about the two organizations, our professional organization, NAEYC, of course, we are early childhood educators or we are educators. We use a lot of acronyms. So the National Association for Education of Young Children, NAEYC and DEC came together and came up with this position statement. Okay, how long ago?
Oh, that's a good question.
Back
in 2000, I'm sorry, 9. There you go.
Basically,
2009.
it's been a long time.
Yes.
Yes, have we come a long way with inclusion? Yes. At the same time, isn't there a lot of work to do? Absolutely. Yes, since 2009 to now, there's been many progress happening here in the US, including this the state conference. That's a big deal. It's the ninth year. So the three constructs again, in terms of why we are doing what we are doing. The three constructs are so important. We will get deep down into a little bit more. And it's, come on, Miss Patty, it's you. It's all about you.
So, right, as we can see here, our famous quote is inclusion is a right, not a privilege for a selected few. So true. And I'm sure many of you can relate to this quote, and it's more of a right for now for our students. And as we dive more to the next PowerPoint, as you can see at the top, we have those very important frameworks, which is access, participation, and supports, which we just talked about in the statement.
As we are all familiar, everything even with this court case, for certain things to get done in a certain way, it has to be the law.
Absolutely.
So it's just because. Now go ahead, Patty.
Obviously. So As we continue with our frameworks, inclusion really is a sense of belonging. But when we're talking about inclusion in the classroom environment, we have three very important frameworks that we need to ensure that it's actually being implemented to ensure that our students are given access to all the learning environment and settings that we're providing them with those opportunities and activities.
Just as I shared with you, the position statement was developed in 2009. This study is a little old. At the same time, I do want to share because it's relevant. Back in 1998, when this study was conducted, only 25% of lead education agencies in Southern California provided inclusive options, specifically for early childhood special ed. So Dr. Cavaliero, who's one of my fabulous mentors and professors back when I did my first master's at Cal State Northridge. In fact, I saw some of my Northridge peeps as presenters as well. Miss Annie Cox was presenting from the Chime Institute.
And of course, the next framework is participation. So not only is it access, but it's also ensuring that our students are given an opportunity for participation. And this is specifically in individualizing the instruction and making those accommodations for our children.
And the Head Start, the frame. Head Start program performance standards. I had a senior moment. Head Start program performance standards specifically addresses this teaching and learning environment, the curricula, child screenings and the assessments, and parent and family engagement. So all of that encompasses participation. And of course, when we are talking about support, it's about all of us, all of you, all of us. How are we supporting? How are we supporting the systems to implement inclusive practices? The way I look at it is, if there is no support, there is no inclusion. I know you will, all of you will agree with it.
Absolutely.
Because just because we have the children included and we are not providing the support for teachers. And Dr. Mussio's study, it revealed very vividly high need for qualified inclusion facilitators. That was one of my findings as well, because that the support is so crucial in order to implement inclusive practices. Once again, we both of us want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
here you are, you want to learn more about practices in ECE settings and how to implement inclusive practices.
So some of you, or many of you, may be familiarized with the term universal design for
In
learning.
fact, as we know, even the keynote and all the other, basically we are just chiming everything you know already. Because some of the, most of the presenters in the morning talked about
Yep.
UDL. Okay, go for it, Miss
Well,
Patty.
many of you might have heard that UDL means engagement. We just talked about engaging, access, representation, how we represent the activities to our students, and demonstration. It's demonstrating those skills and the activities to where all students have an opportunity to access. But here, I want everybody to look at this interesting cartoon that we have on this side, and then when you look at it and read it, let us know if you type in the chat, what is the first thing that comes in your mind? What are you thinking when you read this? And some of you may look at it as, oh, this is an aha moment. See if we can see what you guys think or thoughts.
You know what,
in clearing
Patty?
the path.
This reminds me of, the cartoon reminds me
Yes.
of the poem about, when the family discovered that they have a child with a disability. I'm dating myself.
Yes.
Do you know which one? Going
I
to
think
Holland.
yes, going to Holland.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because that has become such a part of our lingo
Mhm.
and the visuals, when it comes to, like discovering a child with a disability, when the parent discovered she was going to have a child with a disability. Also with UDS, specifically, this picture is really becoming that icon of UDL.
Absolutely. And in UDL, it's really defining, clearing a path for people with special needs, also clears a path for everybody else.
All right, I'm going to tell you, I'm guilty of this. When I go to buildings and when I pull my little trolley with my laptop and sometimes, it's so full, with so many books and all of that. So when I go to buildings and when I don't see a path, when I don't see a ramp, I'm like, wait a minute, are they ADA compliant? I mean, I'm sure you are giggling because you're thinking about
The
it,
SPED
right?
law is starting to come out of our brains, and
Exactly. Or
we're
the
over
IDA.
analyzing. Yeah,
Yes.
yes,
ADA,
ADA compliance.
Yep. PL 94742, back 1975. I'm dating myself. All right. Professional development, it is. Patty is going to share successes. I'm going to share barriers. We are not going to read all the bullet points. That is why, you're going to get the PowerPoint. And we don't want you to tune out at our beautiful voices. Okay, go ahead, Miss Patty.
So remember, going back in the word supports, bringing that supports to levelize the structure for our educators. Well, then professional development is that level of support that actually we brought in for our teachers, and also identified that this is definitely a need to ensure that we are going in terms of the inclusion support practices. So the successes of professional development is it definitely increases the content and the knowledge and the trends and approaches of inclusive practices for our educators. It also provides our educators time to listen to teachers' needs and concerns. And let me tell you, Shine, I to this day, and even when I started the piloting the program, uh, definitely the professional development was always an opportunity to hear and listen to my teachers' concerns. And mostly we would hear, how am I going to do this? I do not know. I'm new to this. Well, that's where professional development was very important, that we implemented and we provided that level of support to be able to address those concerns for our teachers.
Absolutely. In terms of barriers, one of the barriers, we'd always, especially the last 2 years, shortage, shortage of sub coverage. I can attest to that. How many times I've lost count that I've been in the classroom, either as a teacher, as a paraeducator, sometimes even, when with uh, the cafeteria staff is out. Like it's like what we got to do is we got to do, especially in early childhood education. All of you can attest to that. You are the counselor, you are the specialist, you are the mom or the grandma, and all of that. So shortage of sub coverages has been a barrier, and also lack of coaching. I'm going to pause because I think Patty has a comment. Go ahead, Patty.
No, the reason I have a comment is that we were also looking at the chats while we're also talking at the same time. And going back to some of the comments, we apologize because we had to scroll down the chat box and we didn't see the comments until now. One of the comments that I really appreciate, and thank you, Sandy. Sandy said that the video made her remember how important inclusion support was for her son.
Aww.
Thank you, Sandy. And I'm sorry, we did not mean to shift to that, but I felt like, you know what? I think we haven't seen the chats. What's going on? Well, we did not scroll down to look at everybody else's chats, but thank you. And because of that, Sandy, I agree with you on that, which giving your son that opportunity, that level of support, as well as giving the support for our teachers in professional development, is what brought you the memories that we were able to bring that level of opportunity for your son.
And also, Tasia, creating environments that support individuals of all abilities and needs. Absolutely, Tasia. I'm going to also piggyback on your comment. Please don't always think about the fact that there may be a better solution that works for everyone, and that it's not one extra thing to do to make the adjustment. You're right. Absolutely. So we need to be also very mindful about that. Thank you, Tasia. And in terms of another barrier, lack of funding to pay for professional development. I mean, I'm saying this confidently, especially here in California. I'm very thankful with even California Department of Education, and I'm speaking for Riverside County because we live and work in Riverside County with the of course with the CDE, the EAP grant, the Early Education Expansion grant, and with Riverside County, the First Five Commission with Quality Start Riverside County has been very, very supportive overall with the professional development opportunity, and the Consortium for Early Learning, partnership with Riverside County
Mhm.
Office of Education. Yes, so even though according to research, according to surveys, these are barriers. At the same time, I'd like to share that, now that time about not having money to not having personnel. So there's always a barrier, but it's at the same time we are responsible in trying to see how to best support our youngest learners, as Patty calls them. She calls them littles. I'm going
Yes,
to
they're my
start using
littles.
that.
All right, now we're going to, now that we've discussed about professional development in terms of successes and barriers, let's go ahead and have you type in your philosophy of inclusive practices. What is your belief, values, and morals on inclusive practices? And who would benefit from inclusive practices? And what are the laws and regulations pertaining to inclusive practices? What would be your mission and vision? And how do you share these values with colleagues and administrators? You don't have to answer all of them, but if you can answer just one of those questions, we greatly appreciate it.
Now, let me share with all of you why we have a choice of questions.
Mhm.
When Patty and I developed a presentation, because each of us are coming from a different lens. We, as a parent, professional, educator. When I say educator, please, accept that you are a professional. Instructional assistant, doesn't matter which professional role that we are, or personal role that we are representing. And as professionals, and as human beings, we need to know what are our own beliefs and values.
Mhm.
Because, yes, when we work for an agency, you become part of that quilt of that agency. At the same time, it's very important for our uniqueness and to share at presentations, to share at teachers' meetings, to share even with the administrator, even if it is not a meeting. These are your values, your morals, because each of us, doesn't matter once again which role we serve, we all serve for student success.
Absolutely.
Because doesn't matter, no matter from our school superintendent to our custodial staff to our administrative staff, all of us are serving for student success.
All right. So now we're going to transition over, and thank you. Everyone benefits from inclusive practices. Yes, Tasia, thank you so much. And of course, we just talked about vision. So the vision of inclusion for California is all children in California, including children with disabilities or delays, have access. Remember, we talked about access to quality childcare with active participation and appropriate supports. And of course, in 2019, WestEd, beginning together, changing the world. So that's what it takes.
It was super exciting. In fact, that was the year that I finished my doctoral defense. I finished my defense in November, end of November, basically after the holidays, after Thanksgiving holidays. I don't know what I was thinking. Of course, I wasn't thinking. While I was working on my doctoral research, I had committed to attend the inclusion facilitator training. So literally, my our my graduation ceremony, I think it was December 8th, that Friday. December 9th, I was in San Diego joining the lovely team with beginning together with Sandy and the whole entire team in San Diego, joining for the inclusion facilitator training.
Mhm.
And that the theme was changing the world. I just love it, and I literally felt like I was changing the world. My heart was racing. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just finished. I walked down the stage with earning my doctoral degree, and I did tell my friends and family. In fact, my close family who came from Canada, I said, so sorry. I am so appreciative of you being here for my graduation. At the same time, tomorrow, we are tomorrow morning, instead of Friday night, I think it may have been Saturday morning. My husband and I said, we are heading to San Diego for a training. Anyway, time to
Yes, time for change. Absolutely.
please put a thumbs up or number one if you have heard of the vision for California for early childhood inclusion. How many of you are hearing this for the first time? You can say yes or no. I am just
Yes.
super thrilled that we
Yes.
as a team, we have a vision for
Yes.
California and for early learners.
Yes, and I, as a mom in 2005, I had a vision for my daughter, and that vision is where we are now, and
Aww.
excited to be here. And for many of you who have that same vision, more power. And I'm so happy that we've added more inclusion warriors to our team. But yes, I completely agree that it is definitely time for change.
Absolutely.
All right. So now that we've talked about professional development, other very important community that is importantly involved with inclusion is our parent engagement. We know that parent involvement is not only crucial in inclusion programs or how we're facilitating inclusion, but also in our educational system. And Shani and I are going to talk about successes and barriers. In terms of successes, the successes with parent engagement is it builds relationships between staff and families. I can
Oh, I
tell
have
you.
another
Oh
story.
yes.
What I just do this. I got to tell you,
Yeah.
almost every IEP.
Yes.
So when I serve as an administrator at the IEP, so of course the case manager who's the early childhood education teacher. So we have all our roles and responsibilities. The teacher welcomes the parent and the team for the IEP meeting, and then she'll go through the introduce herself, family members, everybody. Then I said, please, I'm going to be, please, I want to be introduced last. Okay, so then why I do that is I intentionally do that, and then first question I ask the parents. So the parents, like they're very serious in this meeting. I say, mom or dad, and then I'll say, would you like me to call you Mr. or Mrs. or first name? I say, who is the first and foremost important teacher? So sometimes I know I catch people off guard. Some parents will just like look at it, and especially for
Yeah.
the initial IEPs,
Mm-hmm.
they'll just look at because they've already met the teacher, because through the part of initial
Mhm.
assessment, they'll say the teacher's name. I'm like, try again. I said, that's close. So I always remind them.
Yes.
Parents are first and
Yes,
foremost
they're the
important
most
teacher.
important educators and teachers. Absolutely, I completely agree with you on that. But then, although there are successes, we also have some barriers, and I think you'll see here the list of barriers. But I think one barrier that we would like to target and identify is definitely the barrier when it comes to licensing.
Yes.
And Sean, do you want to talk more about the licensing barriers?
Sure. So, in my previous roles as a principal at another school district, in terms of overall, we converted a elementary school as an early learning center. So I worked with the assistant special education, the site principal, early childhood special education principal, and I was overseeing early childhood education. So overall, when we converted the elementary school as an early learning center, so we had 7 early childhood special ed classrooms, and we had 2 early childhood education classrooms. So when I wrote to licensings about using the playground, because it's an elementary school campus,
Mhm.
we needed to make sure that all the preschoolers has access to the playground. So usually, typically what happens is in an elementary campus, we have to request a waiver.
Mhm.
Because it's children who are kindergarten age, who have to different age groups. So when I wrote to licensing, my request was my letter was a request, so all children can play together. So I got a call from the licensing manager here for Riverside County. She said, tell me more about this program. And I said, yep, this is all preschoolers between 3 and 5, and what we are implementing is inclusive practices where children with disabilities, I want them to be able to play in the playground together. So when I had the licensing analyst come pay a visit, because in addition to that, I was also licensing one additional classroom. So when we did that visit together, and then of course I let her do her paperwork. So before that, as we were walking the campus, she pointed to me and I says, "What about this class? What about this class?" I said, "Yep, they're children, they're 3 and 5." She asked me, "Why aren't they licensed?" I said, "Oh, no, no, no. We don't want to go there only because they don't need a license. And in reality, even we don't need a license, but we have to go through because it's a child development program." Why I'm saying that as a barrier is, in terms of, I did make the comment because, it was, initially licensing was hesitant in terms of giving me that, permission as opposed to a waiver, only because Title 22 is very strict in
Yes.
terms of, the health and safety measures. Then I did, in a joking way, share, wait a minute, Title 22 was written many moons ago. It is time for us to relook at Title 22. And currently, I am super excited. I want to tell ladies and gentlemen here at Menifee, as we shared, Patty was a director here before. Before Patty moved on to better and bigger things, she acquired the EAP grant. So as part of that EAP grant is we have 4 classrooms that were built with the EAP funding. I am super excited. Right now, we have hosting the early childhood special education classrooms. Why I'm excited is we're going to get licensed. We're going to license all 4 of those classrooms because the way our campus is built, the Menifee preschool, we have preschool, early childhood education, early childhood special education in one building. Now we have the 4 additional classrooms. Of course, we have another campus, another preschool, early childhood education class at Quail Valley. So why I'm super excited is we will get the license to include license the 4 classrooms, so we can have children without disabilities in the with the early childhood education classrooms. I am super excited about that.
Absolutely. Well, as we continue to grow in our passion for students in her current site, who she now has my school. So yes, I faced those barriers when I started to bring the grant here, and now with her continue with that expansion. We know we were able to go or come around those barriers. But what we're trying to say is, yes, there were many challenges. We had to go through many waivers, loopholes, and etc. But you'll understand that there was blood, sweat, and tears to be able to do what we're doing now and to be able to bring Menifee those inclusive opportunities. Now, as we dive over to, we talked about parent engagement. Now we're going to transition over to curriculum and assessments. Curriculums, as you know, are very important that we have in our programs. But assessments, you're thinking, well, what does assessments have to do with inclusion? So with curriculum, we, of course, our focus is that we provide a curriculum that all our children have access to, that's still going to provide them those school readiness skills, those preschool learning foundations. When I started here with Menifee and, of course, with Anaheim, we used curriculums for both ECE and ECSE. We use curriculums such as Big Day for preschool. Many of you may be familiarized. We did Second Step for social emotional. Of course, DRDP aligns for both general ed and for special ed. That is a given, but we definitely use those very important measurements to ensure that our students are making the progress.
As all of you are familiar, assessment drives curriculum. Curriculum drives assessment, right? Because in order for us to know how to individualize, we need to assess our students. So one of the barriers is ECE program uses Learning Genie, which is a software to, and also the portfolios. Early childhood special ed does not. And this, I don't know if it is unique to certain districts or not. At the same time, in terms of a barrier, we need to be those agents of change to shift that. ASQs are required for early childhood education as part of the CRIS block grant, and early childhood special education does not. Here's the good news. Here at Menifee, this year, as part of our MTSS process district-wide, we are implementing the ASQs for all children, for preschoolers. So the way we are looking at it is, you know what, we are going to get some base level data, and so then we can support. Even though the students with disabilities already have done a complete assessment, one of the psychologists asked me, Dr. Shine, why? I said, look, the assessment is that you are doing as a psych and also the teacher, and this assessment, it actually helps the parent. The parent does the ASQ to overall understand the developmental continuum. In terms of looking at time, we have about
Yes.
50 minutes to go.
Yes. And then, of course, in continuation of assessments, these are assessments that our teachers were trained to implement, to understand, to know, because we assess students, their skills, not only during when as part of their initial or their transition, but it should still making sure that we're still updating their present levels even during the time they're in the program. So that's why we felt that our teachers needed to have this level of training to ensure that they're assessing and monitoring progress throughout the time the students are with us.
Absolutely. Not sure any of you are using the ASQ and SE calculator. One of the best things, hidden gems. And if you are not using your ASQ online version, please, you're missing out. I promise you, I don't have any stocks with this company. I'm sharing this only as an administrator.
All right, so I know we have only a couple of minutes left, but I really want to just quickly emphasize that there's different types of models of inclusion support. You have your co-teaching model, single teacher model, and consultation model.
What's your favorite?
Well, actually, my favorite is actually co-teaching model, and the reason why I say it's my favorite, and not because I've not had the experience in single and consultation model, is I felt that the co-teaching model, our teachers not only our students grow together and learn together, but so do our teachers. They learn and grow together because they actually bring in a knowledge in general ed and special ed. And I can tell you that my teachers, when I was Anaheim, they both have told me that they appreciate learning, the general ed teacher learning about special ed, the special ed teacher learning about general ed, because they were able to work together and meet the students' needs in various capacities.
Thank you, Patty. And also in terms of planning co-teaching models, you have the slide here. So one is teaching, one is supporting. It's a one teacher model. I'm going to go ahead and dive in because Patty did give you an overview about the pilot program, about the research findings. So basically, as I shared with you, my research was looking specifically on the assessment of inclusive practices. I used uh, three tools. One is the ICP, the other one is data from the California CRIS, the Quality Rating Improvement System, and another one is a teacher survey. So basically, what I did, I took each of those tools and separated each from the each tool according to access, participation, and supports by the operational definition. And then when I did my data analysis, I came up after I did my data analysis. I came up with a crosswalk. So you're welcome to take a look at my research. We have the link on the website and presentation. So basically, what it proved was why my crosswalk was accepted. The research model findings contributed to a very limited literature. Right now, we have a very limited literature about the assessment of inclusive practices. Data revealed that the underlying factor structure, so each of these things, that's the structure was made up of access, participation, and supports. So the ICP is made up access and participation. SSPI is made up of access, participation, and supports, and the CRIS matrix is made up of only supports. And yes, as any other research, there are limitations of my research as well. So if any of you are planning to do another research study, such as my neighbor right here, I'm planning to convince her. I don't need to convince her anymore. She's already motivated on her own and to take that study and take it another level. So, in terms of implementation, really quickly, if you would type in one of the things that you would do as a result of attending our workshop, what will you implement tomorrow? It can be a very simple thing or it can be a complicated thing. What will you implement? And what was your aha as a result of us sharing our knowledge.
Well, as our participants type what they've shared, what's been their aha moment, and what was one thing that they can take from this presentation, I do want to say uh, that this journey, although it's been a journey, it's been a worthwhile journey for myself and for my colleague. And we continue to work together and continue to thrive. And like as Yogi said, inclusion, we thrive. And that's what our focus is. And of course, I do want to say thank you so much, everyone, for your participation. And excited to be here because it's actually this was my first co presentation with Shine, and I'm looking forward to doing more. But here we have shared with you our emails. If you have any questions, if you need some guidance on how you want to bring inclusion to your center, to your schools, or if you're running into some barriers, and Shine and I are always welcome to give you some input and some guidance.
Once again, thank you for taking time of your busy schedule, and do us a favor, take a photo of our email addresses. Please,
Absolutely.
please drop us an email, and I promise you we are going to be sharing our presentation. Once again, thank you for the opportunity. We are humbled by being able to share our knowledge and expertise. As I shared, this is years of experience backed with research, and of course, once again, because of our commitment to all children, because all children can and will learn according to their God-given potential.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I hope that you found this presentation very educational, and definitely you were able to take some new knowledge and things that you can take back with you. So thank you once again for your participation. It's always been a pleasure to continue to serve our students, our community, and to be able to connect with other colleagues. So thank you once again.
And enjoy the rest of the
Yes.
conference. It is, you have no
Yes.
idea, especially for the first timers.
Yes,
you are going to
absolutely.
love it. Today is a sneak peek, so you're going to really, really enjoy this conference. Take care.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Uh-huh.
Bye bye.